Robert Redford nearly played John Dutton in Yellowstone, Taylor Sheridan reveals. Taylor Sheridan's Yellowstone is one of the most iconic TV shows of the century, and its lead character was almost played by a different actor. Kevin Costner led Yellowstone's cast for 50.5 seasons before departing from the project. The show launched Taylor Sheridan into fame, making him one of the most accomplished writers/producers of all time. Back in 2023, Taylor Sheridan shared some insights into the process of creating Yellowstone. He detailed his time getting the would-be Paramount show off the ground, and this story feels critical to what the show's legacy has now become. Yellowstone's ending was divisive, so it's worth wondering what could have been. Robert Redford reportedly almost played John Dutton in Yellowstone. Speaking with THR, Taylor Sheridan shared that Robert Redford was the original actor intended to play John Dutton. Believing Redford would seal the deal in getting the series made, Sheridan met the actor face-to-face and pitched the project, even getting him to agree on the role. Given how synonymous Kevin Costner has become with John Dutton to modern television audiences, it's almost shocking that another veteran star almost played him. Like Costner, the great Robert Redford had his share of Western experience, having starred in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid back in 1969. With one of the all-time classic Western movies under his belt, Redford could have been exceptional as John Dutton. He may have nearly 2 decades on Kevin Costner, but he's still a legendary film star, and, at that point, Yellowstone was likely shaping out to be a different project from where it ended up. John Dutton is a character mired in controversy. Yellowstone's legacy was divisive before all the behind-the-scenes drama regarding Kevin Costner, but now it's hard to speak about John Dutton without getting into the controversy. He's likely among the most controversial, iconic TV characters of all time, given what he represented, what the show represented, and how his story ended. Kevin Costner's departure from Yellowstone wasn't the ideal situation for anyone involved and forced the series to come to a conclusion that felt forced rather than what Sheridan likely planned for. Even before that, Dutton was a unique entry to the American TV antihero protagonist category, given how many viewers related to his ideologies. Yellowstone was originally in development at HBO. For anyone wondering why Robert Redford didn't end up becoming John Dutton, it's because the version of Yellowstone that involved him was meant for HBO. Sheridan claims that he was only steps away from landing the show, and that they were the ones who tasked him with recruiting Redford, though they actually wanted a Redford-like star. Kevin Costner Yellowstone, Kevin Costner John Dutton, Yellowstone Kevin Costner Fear, Kevin Costner Exit Yellowstone, Horizon and American Saga Kevin Costner, Yellowstone Season 5 John Dutton Death, Taylor Sheridan Yellowstone, Yellowstone Spin-offs, Yellowstone Behind the Scenes, Kevin Costner Interview. Kevin Costner's ex-wife Christine Baumgartner is living her best post-divorce life, and she's not doing it alone. The 50-year-old handbag designer was spotted heading to dinner with her boyfriend, Josh Connor, in New York City's West Village on Wednesday, December 11th. Photos obtained by Page 6 show the pair smiling as they made their way to Il Tatano, an Italian seafood joint. Connor, 34, held a black umbrella over Baumgartner, who was dressed in a black winter coat and black trousers, to shield her from the rain. Meanwhile, the financier kept warm in a black jacket and navy slacks. They're spending time in the city Christmas shopping for the kids, a source told the outlet. Baumgartner shares kids Caden, 17, Hayes, 15, and Grace, 14, with Costner, who is also dad to 4 adult children. Connor is also a father. They're so in love and taking it back to where it all started, the insider added, recalling their trip to NYC last year at the beginning of their romance. Baumgartner's relationship with Connor first made headlines last year when they were spotted together in Hawaii during the summer. The appearance came shortly after the Cat Bag Couture founder filed for divorce from Costner, 69, on May 1, 2023, citing irreconcilable differences after the former couple's split made headlines for its contentious legal battle, including Baumgartner's request for $248,000 a month in child support. A judge ultimately ruled that the Yellowstone actor would pay $63,209 per month to support their kids. Costner and Baumgartner finalized their divorce in February, according to a source who spoke with People. In May, Baumgartner is happy to spend a lotto fine with Josh. The insider revealed that Connor has been around a lot and gives her attention, adding, he's more of an ideal partner for her. Initially, the high-powered investor was just a friend, but Baumgartner enjoys his company, with the source noting, he is a divorced dad and understands what she's been going through. 18 years of marriage. Costner's accuser defends her lawsuit as court hearing nears. My belief is that Devyn LaBella's claims were designed, through the use of false statements and sensationalistic language, to damage my reputation, said filmmaker Kevin Costner, responding to a lawsuit filed against him by a stunt double on his film Horizon, An American Saga, Chapter 2. That statement was from an August 18th declaration filed by Costner, in which he counters the claims of a hostile work environment that were outlined in a lawsuit by LaBella, who was a stunt double on the 2023 production of the yet-to-be-released film. Costner added that he believes his accuser is an opportunist seeking a massive and unjustified payday, and he submitted his declaration with a request that the lawsuit be dismissed. In a new court filing submitted by LaBella on September 5th, she is doubling down on her allegations ahead of the September 18th court hearing, which will either see the case move forward or be dismissed. Now, she claims she is the victim of sexual harassment, which was allegedly facilitated by Costner. Reader discretion is advised. The following information and excerpts from the lawsuit are of a graphic and intimate nature. Since May, filmmaker Kevin Costner has been embroiled in a legal battle surrounding the production of Horizon, An American Saga, Chapter 2. LaBella, a stunt double on the film, filed a lawsuit against Costner, claiming that Costner created a hostile work environment when he allegedly forced her to perform in a violent, unscripted, unscheduled rape scene. Of this situation, LaBella's lawsuit states, there was no escaping the situation, and all LaBella could do was wait for the nightmare to end. LaBella's account of the scene, which was filmed on May 2nd, 2023, was as follows. In his August 18th declaration, Costner writes, "When I reviewed the complaint filed by LaBella in this lawsuit, I was shocked at the false and misleading allegations she was making." LaBella's lawsuit goes on to claim her ability to work was impeded upon, saying she experienced continuous reminders of the shame, humiliation, and complete lack of control she had experienced during the May 2nd filming. She experienced sudden bouts of crying on and off set. When the film wrapped production, she was not hired to return for Horizon, An American Saga, Chapter 3. Costner noted that she would not be hired for the third film in the series as the character she had been the stunt double for in Chapter 2 does not return for the next film. In the latest court document filed on September 5th by LaBella, we learn that Costner's declaration for dismissal of the lawsuit is categorized as an anti-SLAPP measure. SLAPP is an acronym for Strategic Lawsuits Against Public Participation, and Costner's legal team is accusing LaBella and her lawsuit of seeking to intimidate and suppress Costner's freedom of speech as an artist. LaBella's response on September 5th takes the SLAPP accusation to task, stating it is without merit. The absence of the intimacy coordinator was not explained in Costner's declaration. Later, LaBella's latest court filing says, Costner and his legal team once again misstate the basis of LaBella's claim. It is not the blocking of a shot in a movie production that Ms. LaBella finds offensive. It was their blatant refusal to follow the safety protocols and procedures that are required. Costner's declaration detailed how the blocking, or choreographing, of the shot in question was accomplished, and Costner's account notes that the shot was only ever blocked but never filmed. This is one of the central areas of contradiction between LaBella and Costner. The day before the May 2nd, 2023, incident, Costner directed a scripted rape scene involving LaBella, and LaBella leans on this, stating, "The May 1st scene is the perfect example that the same creative product can be produced when the proper protocols are followed." LaBella's contracts, the filing states, require the presence of an intimacy coordinator for shots involving simulated sex acts, as well as written notice 48 hours before such a scene is to be shot, with LaBella adding. Costner and his legal team now argue that ignoring Ms. LaBella's rights for this scene is protected activity because it was part of the creative process. Continuing, LaBella says, when Costner and his legal team claim that the actual objective of Ms. LaBella's suit is to interfere with and burden Costner's exercise of free speech rights in connection with a creative work, they imply that in the name of creativity, they were free to violate any law or employee's contractual rights with complete impunity. The latest filing from LaBella ends by stating, in sum, the court should deny defendant's special motion to strike in its entirety. View LaBella's September 5th court filing, courtesy of Deadline. Here, responding to LaBella's newly submitted claims, Kevin Costner's lawyer, Marty Singer, told, Kevin Costner had one major fear before Yellowstone started production. Taylor Sheridan's Yellowstone was a sensation when it was on the air, annihilating virtually every other cable network show in the ratings. No doubt a big part of that, at least initially, was the casting of Kevin Costner as John Dutton, the patriarch of the family the show follows. Getting a huge name like Costner set the series up for success, but that also came with a lot of pressure for the actor. In June 2019, not long after the show's second season premiered, the Alistair spoke with Good Morning America and admitted feeling a lot of trepidation. Costner mentioned that when he was first approached about the part, Yellowstone was meant to be a 10-episode miniseries. As development went along, it became clear that the series could continue for a while, and that scared him. Suddenly, it was going to be a multi-season, Costner explained. And I thought, actually, if I would have said, well, now I'm not doing it, that maybe it might have crumbled before it got started. And I kind of took the weight on emotionally of not wanting to have the show crumble. Those feelings were seemingly confirmed by co-star Denham Richards, who played Colby Mayfield. When speaking with the New York Post, he recalled what Costner told the whole cast during the first table read. According to Richards, Costner told his new colleagues, "I don't know about you guys, but I'm scared as hell. So why don't we come together the best we can and make this happen and support each other?" That support lasted right up until the final season. When Costner did what he refused to do back then, he walked away. Appearing on a TV show for 5 seasons is a big commitment. Yellowstone had the misfortune of dividing its 5th and final season into 2 parts. And while Kevin Costner reprised the role of John Dutton for the first portion of 8 episodes, he decided to bow out for the final 6. The reason Costner quit Yellowstone is that he wanted to make his own Western project, and he couldn't do both at the same time. The filming schedule for Yellowstone Season 5, Part 2 reportedly conflicted with Costner's film Horizon, an American Saga. This was meant to be a massive cinematic epic divided into multiple parts, with the first 2 movies coming out in 2024, just 6 weeks apart. However, due to Part 1 being a box office disappointment, Part 2 was indefinitely delayed. Meanwhile, Yellowstone carried on without John Dutton. Season 5, Part 2 opens with John's death, and the rest of the season involves his family attempting to find out the truth about what happened and picking up the pieces. Even under the circumstances, killing off the show's central character was a risky move. Many fans hated John's death on Yellowstone, believing that Taylor Sheridan had plenty of time to figure out something better, knowing that Costner wouldn't be returning. Even though Yellowstone is over, the show's universe lives on. There's already been multiple Yellowstone spin-offs, and another one is on the horizon. The Madison, starring Michelle Pfeiffer and Kurt Russell, which is set in the modern day. Yellowstone fans are sobbing over how Beth reacted to that John Dutton moment. This story contains spoilers from the Yellowstone Season 5 Part 2 premiere episode. Desire is all you need. Yellowstone Season 5 Part 2 is officially here, and boy did it kick off with a bang. After 2 years of being off the air, the hit Paramount Network series is back on TV to wrap up the story of the Dutton family. Now, fans were aware that Kevin Costner wouldn't be returning to Yellowstone as John Dutton for the final episodes, and the show had quite a way to write off his character. As viewers learned in the season premiere, the Dutton patriarch and Montana governor was killed by a gunshot wound while in the bathroom of his widespread mansion. What's more, it's unclear as to who killed John, despite his adopted son and State Attorney General Jamie West Bentley claiming otherwise. Nonetheless, when John's other kids, Case, Luke Grimes, and Beth, Kelly Riley, learn of their father's death, it's Beth who has a visceral reaction to the news. "Hey, what do you know?" Case asks Beth in a clip posted on Instagram on November 10th. "I know nothing, but I know he's gone." Beth replies while she's in tears next to an ambulance blaring its sirens. When Beth's answer isn't enough to satisfy Case about what happened to their dad, he tries to gain more information from her, to no avail. "What do you mean you know nothing? How do you know that?" Case persists. I know. Beth responds before tearing up again. Upon seeing Beth's emotional reaction to John's death, it didn't take long for fans to applaud Kelly for how she portrayed her character's grief on screen. Beth at the end, that feral scream. "I was sobbing. As a girl whose dad is her everything, I felt that in my soul," one person wrote in the comments. "The acting was amazing. Beth destroyed me," another agreed. "Give Kelly Riley the Emmy already." A different viewer added, commending Kelly's performance in the episode. Even though the mystery of who killed John will likely run through the last episodes of Yellowstone, it's nice to know that the rancher made an impact on his kids even when they had tense interactions at one point or another. And as for who did end up murdering the Dutton patriarch, Beth certainly thinks it's Jamie and she's going to get to the bottom of it sooner rather than later. Well, if that's not a reason to tune into the next Yellowstone episode, we don't know what is. Harsh realities of rewatching Yellowstone. Yellowstone is unquestionably one of the most significant releases of the 21st century in the Western genre. The show's sprawling story of rural Montana ranchers, set against the spectacular backdrop of North America's most famous national park, goes a long way to delivering on co-creator Taylor Sheridan's initial pitch of remaking The Godfather in a contemporary Western setting. Yet, it's far from perfect. In fact, Yellowstone is arguably the worst show in its own franchise. Given the critical acclaim garnered by its beautifully rendered spin-off prequel series, 1883 and 1923, the main show might have more swagger about it, but there are plenty of bones to pick out of its occasionally wayward plotting and frequently uneven characterizations. The best episodes of Yellowstone are masterpieces of the neo-Western genre. On the flip side, the series delivers its fair share of cartoonish storylines, gratuitous scenes, and highly questionable perspectives on women and Native Americans. What's more, rewatching it draws our attention to some harsh realities within the story of the show that we might well have missed in previous viewings. At its most engrossing, Yellowstone's plot is not just structurally sound, but expertly crafted. On the other hand, there are moments in the series when major plot holes threaten to undermine its overall credibility. These plot holes are ultimately too many to count, but are laughably bad in the most glaring cases. Take the resurrection of Dan Jenkins following his apparent death in Yellowstone Season 1, for instance, or the unexploded bomb on the Beck brothers' plane that's never mentioned again. There's also the murder of reporter Sarah Nguyen by Jamie Dutton, which is conveniently ruled a kayaking accident without a proper explanation. The Duttons manage to forget that they have dinosaur bones buried on ranch land, too, and Rip Wheeler is somehow able to get married and to drive across state lines repeatedly without there being any documented record of his existence. Meanwhile, entire character arcs disappear without warning in later seasons of Yellowstone, as we'll return to below. Kevin Costner has suggested that Yellowstone's central family should all be in prison, and when you rewatch the show, it's hard to disagree with him. The notorious train station, full of bodies belonging to those who get on the wrong side of Costner's character John Dutton, speaks for itself. During the course of Yellowstone, Dutton, his ruthless right hand, Rip, his adoptive son Jamie, and his son and daughter, Case and Beth, all commit multiple murders. The Dutton family is responsible for dozens of killings throughout the series, in addition to their corrupt relationship with the local Montana police force and numerous seemingly illicit financial dealings. No one directly perpetrates more violent crimes in Yellowstone than John Dutton's henchman, Rip, who later marries Beth Dutton. Between lynching Dan Jenkins, gouging a chunk out of Wade Morrow, and setting a rattlesnake on an unsuspecting Rourke Morris, Rip earns a fearsome reputation as the Dutton Ranch's most merciless enforcer. A large proportion of Yellowstone's darkest moments can be attributed to the character, whose profoundly tragic backstory, care and affection for Beth, and loyalty towards his father-in-law contrasts starkly to the cruelty he exacts on almost everyone else. At its worst, Rip's brutal violence is too much for us to handle. While figures like Rip Wheeler and Beth Dutton increasingly play leading roles in the series as it goes on, some of Yellowstone's best characters are noticeably underused in later seasons. Most notable among these characters is Case Dutton's wife, Monica, whose character development grinds to a standstill between seasons 3 and 5 of the show. Monica's work as a teacher, first at a school on her family's Broken Rock reservation, and then at the local university, completely disappears from view after Yellowstone Season 2. Following the Season 3 episode, I Killed a Man Today, she doesn't have any storyline independent of her husband, Case. Another character notable by his absence from the subplots of later Yellowstone seasons is Gator, the Dutton family's live-in chef. This lovable fan-favorite character is even missing from scenes where his presence is required for the continuity of the series, such as John Dutton's funeral in Season 5. Monica Long Dutton being underused in Yellowstone is the very least of the show's problematic portrayals of women. Even when Monica does appear in later seasons, she's either objectified as bait for a serial killer, for example, or cast primarily in the role of a childbearer for the Dutton lineage. The entire series is rife with this kind of latent misogyny, from the decision to have Beth Dutton force a jewelry store proprietor to strip as an act of vengeance, to the gratuitously staged attempted rape of Beth herself by a masked assailant. Yellowstone features admirably strong female characters, but the way it treats them is often cause for concern. Yellowstone has faced criticism from actor Lily Gladstone about its representation of Native Americans, and her comments certainly tally with the Dutton family's attitude towards those living in poverty across the land boundary from them on the Broken Rock Reservation. The show's first episode, Gun Battle, perfectly encapsulates the sentiments of John Dutton towards his indigenous neighbors. Even when he forms an alliance with Chief Rainwater, it's a defensive action against a common enemy. To the bitter end, Dutton is determined to hold on to his ranch's land, despite it being promised to Rainwater's tribe as far back as the 19th century. The Dutton children and ranch hands have no real concern for Native Americans, either. The only exception is Case Dutton, whose sympathies are sometimes split between his wife, Monica, and his own family. It's Case who eventually sells the ranch land to Rainwater. But even he only does so out of necessity, with no other inheritance left to him by his father, and Yellowstone not turning a profit. After Kevin Costner's exit midway through Season 5, Yellowstone's divisive handling of John Dutton's death began its unceremonious crawl to the final episode. Although Beth and Jamie Dutton's fight to the death delivers a climactic finale, the show just isn't the same without its central patriarch. The second half of Season 5 is relatively muted, while Bella Hadid's controversial cameo in Yellowstone's penultimate episode seems to be more in service of co-creator and writer Taylor. John Dutton is Yellowstone's real villain, whose obsession with his unprofitable ranch leads him to commit murder on a massive scale, at the same time as roping his entire family and various underlings into this violent undertaking. The victims of Yellowstone Ranch and the Dutton family far outnumber those who do John Dutton wrong during the course of the show. He appears to be firmly on the wrong side of history in relation to Native American land, while serving as the primary force behind the terrible tragedies that befall his family. Yellowstone's spin-off featuring Beth Dutton and Rip Wheeler is confirmed, alongside another show set in the same universe but without the Duttons, entitled The Madison. Neither of these shows will be able to match their parent series for sheer drama. However, Yellowstone itself is just too epic in scope, with too stellar a cast for any spin-off to compete with. If 1883 and 1923 are anything to go by, no spin-off series will ever be able to offer the same level of dramatic intensity as the present-day Dutton ensemble. The quietly intimidating presence of Costner's John Dutton, in particular, will be sorely lacking from any other show in the same universe, as will the fierce tension between Beth and Jamie Dutton. Even though Yellowstone has its flaws, no other contemporary Western does drama quite like it. Rewatching the series underlines its strengths as the gripping tale of a family riven by internal demons, as well as exposing the harsh realities we have to face up to.